Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, I'll be going through my AFL Fantasy round review for round 16, in which I had a score of 21.29, team value just shy of 21 million, a round rank of 22,746, and an overall ranking of 6,902. So not the greatest round, but I still think I'm improving the team round on round and slowly getting there. Definitely could be better, but yeah, I think I'm making the right moves each week at least. Like the last week I went for the week before last, this week, sorry, for round 15, I went for Merritt. He did really well. He didn't do so well this week. The other week I went for Brodie Grundy. He didn't have the best week this week, but he did score a couple of 120s, and Jordan Clark probably didn't work out as well as I thought he would. He's gone sort of mid-tier the last 3 weeks, and then you've got also this week the likes of last week. I brought in Zorko, and he did pretty well with a 118, I believe it was. Yeah, and that turned out to be my captain score that I doubled up because there was only a 1, 2, 3 guys that went above it, and I was never gonna take on any of their. I was never gonna captain any of them. So yeah, that was pretty much how it went. But before we jump into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So as you can see here, I'm trying to hide it a little bit. 87 to Jordan Clark, my D1. He didn't do the greatest, but it was against the Swans, and I sort of expected it. I was expecting maybe a little bit lower, but he did get 30 more points than he did against them in round 9. But his schedule basically opens up now that he has no one, I don't think, to tag him for the next at least 6 weeks until this Giants game. I don't expect anyone. Guelphy may tag him in this game, but have they played Essendon yet? No, they haven't. So we'll see if Guelphy tags him, but that would be with a couple rounds. That's still 4 rounds away. So yeah, I expect him to do really well against Richmond. What did he do last time? He did a 93 against Richmond. It was really St Kilda, Collingwood and Melbourne that he did do really well against, and he's got Melbourne again. Has he done any? And so yeah, hopefully he gets back to scoring really well because he hasn't been necessarily the greatest traded. But anyway, Nick Dacos 115. He was really good against Gold Coast. I sort of expected this. He was almost my captain if I didn't take Zorko's score. I almost changed it late as well. Gained 3 points because of Zorko on Fantasy, and gained a singular point in Supercoach because of Nick Dacos. I took on him in Supercoach, so it was quite a weird split that. And yeah, it produced the almost best result possible for me because I was never going to take on Bont in both formats. And yeah, so that's what caused that. Probably should have started with, if Bond didn't have the issue with the back, I would have probably gone a VC him on both platforms, and that would have worked out a lot better. But anyway, we move. And yeah, so he went a 115 to Dacos. I'm really happy about that. Harry Sheezel 91. You sort of expect these ups and down games, but he's still top of the line for a defender, even though he's in that midfield role now. So he had a tough game against the Bulldogs, but ended up with a 91. I expect him to do really well against the Suns. Will be interesting to see what they do against Sydney, first game of the year against them, whether Sydney actually put someone on him or whatnot. Will be interesting to see who James Jordan goes there. James Jordan could honestly go to Fisher or something like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Fisher or Sheezel, or he could go to Simpkin, because I expect LDU or Wardlaw to get the two, to get the Heaney and the Rowbottom matchup, but we'll see in a couple of weeks' time with that. But yeah, really happy still about Harry Sheezel. Nick Martin, 79. This one has become sort of almost an issue that's presented itself whilst I was trying to fix other ones. He's still tracking all right. Still tracking almost top of the line, but 95, 102, 97, 120, 93, 79. If you look at his last 5, he's averaging 98.2. Last 3, he's averaging 97. That's pretty much on the bubble, so will be interesting to see how he responds. Hayden Young's just had a shocker of a game, and that's about it against the Swans, as I believe he was in a heavy tagging role, and he did have the 3 free kicks against, which could have easily turned into 3 kicks, and that would have produced him up to, a 55 in itself. So I'm not too worried about him. He just had a stinker of a game where he only had 1 mark and 0 tackles. So yeah, I'm not too worried about him, given that his lowest tackle count before that was a 2 tackle game here, and a lower before that would be a 4, I believe, if I'm looking at, no, a 3 and then a 4 and a 5. Yeah, so it's not too bad, as well as him having 1 mark. His lowest before that is a 2 marker, then 3, a couple of 3s. So he just got no non-disposal points. So I'm not too worried about that. Lockie Whitfield basically saved Hayden Young's butt here with a 160. That was absolutely huge from him. This is the Lockie Whitfield that we sort of get not each and every week, but you get this Lockie Whitfield, this 12-10 marker effort like 4 or 5 times a year. We've got the 14 marker here. You get, the 9 marker here, a 12 and a 12 here. This was absolutely huge from him, and he's been tackling really well the last couple of weeks. As I said, I believe he is at now 20 tackles last 4 weeks with an average of 5 tackles and an average of 9 marks a game in the last 4. So he's been really, really good. His L5 is pretty ridiculous, a 120 L5 and a 129 L3. So he's been really, really good the last couple of weeks. Errol just had a really bad 3 quarters, but he'll be back to it, I expect, given his last quarter, I believe, was like a 43 or something like that. I would need to double check that, but I believe it was up there, and I think he had 10 or so touches in the last quarter alone. He just got heavily tagged by, I think it might have been O'Meara, but I'm hearing it was also Sharp. I don't take particular notice of tags like that off the ball, as it was a little bit harder to notice it without... So it's just a little bit harder to notice it, but Errol in the last quarter had 9 touches for 43 fantasy points, 2 marks, 3 tackles in that time. So yeah, he just couldn't get near it in the first 3 quarters, and the last quarter he got 43. So I'm not too worried about Errol, to be honest with you. Won't have anyone going with him in St Kilda, so that might honestly be a VC or a C option, given that he averages 75 against them, which is quite an awkward one. So that'll be interesting to look at the reasons behind that 75 average or so against them. But he has a really good run these next couple of weeks, I would expect, because I don't think Will Phillips will go to Errol, to be honest. I think Will Phillips will go to Chad in the North Melbourne game. So that'll be interesting. Just because I think if you had trouble with Will Phillips, if you had trouble against Nick Dacos, keeping up with him, if he look at Errol Gould's time on ground, 90%, he'll run a 95%er. Nick Dacos actually ran 93%, but he runs mostly 80, 85. I think he ran 93 because he played the full last quarter. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Errol Goulden can sort of outrun Will Phillips into the ground, basically. Bontempelli here, 126. He was absolutely huge. Nothing more needs to be said. This guy is on track to just come absolutely steaming home in the Brownlow. At this point, at the moment, Nick Dacos is sort of stalling, just because Collingwood are sort of to an extent stalling. And then you've got Isaac Keeney, who's fallen off a cliff at this point. Errol's just sort of, he's there or thereabouts, but you've got Bont, Cripps, and those two are just going to be battling it out, I think, in the latter half of the year. I think it's just so tight now. Zach Merritt, 89, he just didn't really get anything going too much, to be honest with you, against Geelong. Was kind of annoying, but anyway, we move on, I guess. And I think he had a really good first half, but then the second half, he just did nothing from memory. He had an 8-point third quarter and a 12-point last, so he had 20 points in the second half, which is really annoying because I picked him up in 69 at halftime. You're like, okay, he may go like maybe a 105, 110 if he really falls apart, but he was on track for a 138 and he scored an 89. So I'm not too worried about him. He scored an 89, and an 89 isn't even that bad of a score, considering every mid seemed to fail. Chris, 79, an interesting one, and I would like to get more sort of Collingwood opinions. I've already got 1 or 2 about this, but I just saw this and saw the return of Pendlebury and to go in and went, there might be something to this. He's still got the 9 tackles, but he only got the 17 touches, so is he going to lose, say, even just 5 or 6 touches? Maybe even more, because he ended up with 17 and these 24, 27, 27. He ended up with a 18 disposal effort here, lost all his marks as well. So that will be an interesting one to look at for Crisp, or whether it was just something to do with the Gold Coast game style that prevented him from doing it. Has Essendon next week. Has a pretty good run actually thinking about it here. So it is a decision that I probably will keep him in the end. So we'll watch that space. Zach Butters, 92 in a tag game is fine. Tom Green, a 106. He started off really slow. He was getting the disposals, but he wasn't getting the right kick to handball ratio. I know he ended up with 13 and 25. But I think his first 10 disposals were all handballs, I want to say. So yeah, after that, he ended up with 13, 15, and then also got 5 tackles, which definitely helped. But yeah, he got off to a really slow start. I think it was on about 35 at halftime, maybe 40. I think he ended up with a 69-point second half, which would put him on 37 at halftime, I want to say. I can double check that though for you guys. Let me just quickly double check that so that I actually have the right information. Quarter 1, 18, quarter 2, 20. So it was on 38 at halftime. So it was a 68-point second half in a 31 and a 37-point quarter. So I was close in saying what he ended up with in the second half. But yeah, he was pretty good in the second half. Tom Powell, 74. He's one that will go this week. I know that for sure, unless there is injuries elsewhere, just because he is the obvious upgrade this week. And yeah, I'm depending. I don't know whether to go a flat out mid or to go another forward, because another forward feels like you're just sort of cheap skating a little bit, even though they may be a premium in the forward line. It just, you start to get 1 or 2 mid forwards in your midfield line, and you start to go, is that actually the right option? So I'm questioning whether that is the right option or not. But yeah, Tom Powell, 74 did all right. He did slow down dramatically. I think he was on 69 at 3/4 time. And I think he was also on about 45 or something. So let me at halftime or so. So I don't think he had 6 in the first, 26. So it was on 32 at halftime, actually, not 45. Then he had a 31-point quarter and an 11-point last. So he was on 63 at 3/4 time. And I thought 63, maybe an 85, 86, maybe even a 90 if he gets going in the last quarter. He was on track for an 84 going by 63 through 3. But yeah, ended up a pretty poor last quarter. But anyway, 74 from him wasn't the worst. Max Gawn, 77, that sucked. Brody Grundy, 84, he just got dominated by the dual rucks. We knew that was going to happen, but I'm not too worried about it, given that, Tristan Cherry did go quite big in that game, but I think he's still beating out Tristan Cherry just slightly, because that is a 228, 335, and Brody Grundy through 3 games has more than 335, I would think. He has, I think, 339, just from the quick maths there. So yeah, he's still beating him out, and I think Brody Grundy has St Kilda this week, which will be a double-ish ruck, but will be interesting. Then he has North. That'll be an interesting matchup with Tristan Cherry. Brisbane is slightly, is going to be hard for him, I think, and then Bulldogs, Port, I don't even think have a good enough rug at this point. They're falling apart. Collingwood will be interesting with Darcy Cameron. What did he put on Darcy Cameron? He put a 53 on Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox. Mason Cox will probably be back by then, but will be interesting if they go Kruger or not. Essendon, that's a tough matchup, and Adelaide. So he may actually end up going less than Tristan Cherry, but it'll be an interesting watch there. But it's always good to just have your own team's players, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Sam Flanders, 104. I think he slowed down in the second half, but 104 still all right. Isaac Heaney, 79. It sucks, but yeah, he slowed down dramatically. Didn't kick a goal in these last 2 games. Still had 20 touches, 6 tackles. Just not getting, I think it was, just not getting the marks that he usually got in the early part of this season. So it will be interesting to see how he goes against St Kilda. Probably Windhager gets the Chad Warner assignment, so he probably gets Steele. And we saw how Rosie did against Steele with a 95. So it will be interesting to see how the likes of Heaney does. I think he can do better than that, because I think he's more damaging up the forward end. So it will be interesting to see if he does in fact get the Steele tag. Steele half tag in a sense. But will be interesting there. So I'm not too worried about him just yet. Zach Fisher went off with a ankle complaint and got subbed out of the game in the 3rd quarter. Was on track for a really nice score, but anyway, that sucks. 43% time on ground in the end for a 62. And yeah, he usually tracks. If you convert that, I'm pretty sure you'd see that he would probably be on track for about a 120-ish, 125-ish, which would be one of his better games. But anyway, kind of sucks, but that is what it is. Dylan Moore, 127, 29 touches. We talked about him in the most recent review, which is just gone live. And yeah, 29 touches, 12 marks. That was a really good game from him. Luke Jackson is another guy that I'm considering actually upgrading. And the matter of fact is that if I do an upgrade and I leave Crisp, then it's most likely the week after that I do a Luke Jackson to a premium midfielder, maybe even like a Sarong or something like that, or maybe even go for a Luke Ryan or something like that. They are all options, I guess. Sarong is 875k and has the Richmond matchup. Richmond and then Hawthorn, Melbourne Eagles, yeah. So he'll be an interesting watch, given that his form is slightly gone down, but there are many mids in that sort of 900k region, I would suspect, that I can grab up in the next couple of weeks that looked pretty good. Treloar, maybe, he'll probably cop a tag or two though, so Dunkley is another one to look at. Jordan Dawson as well, could look at him as well in the next week or two, given that he just seems to score really well and that St Kilda matchup could be really, really good for him. So I may look at that and upgrading Jordan Dawson to Luke Jackson to Jordan Dawson. I know that looks a little bit out of place, but it should be able to be done, I believe, just with like even a Colton Tholstrup at that point. So hopefully I can do that. And yeah, that would be the plan. And then I would have, because then, that makes sense to me at least. I would think I would have enough midfielders and forwards also to sort of have a exclusive midfield, exclusive forward line. So that's sort of my thoughts in the next little bit. And then Billy Dowling, 64. I missed out on 6 points because of Joel Frazier. But that was just because I put Tom Powell here rather than when I knew that Tholstrup wasn't going to be taken. I should have honestly done this. And then who played first? When did Geelong play? They played at the 4:35. So if I was really, really smart and it burnt me 6 points, I would have done this. Then I would have seen Frazier's 70 and gone, yep, I'm not going to take a chance on Billy Dowling, and quickly put Sean Manor in there. And that would have been the best op. We also have Lawson Humphreys that did really well as well. That now comes into equation. And the funny thing was, I was actually thinking about this a couple of weeks ago. Let's take my pre-buy, like round 11. Look at my bench then. Closey, Graham, McAuliffe, Jai Clark, Barnett, Fraser, Manor, Garcia. If you look at that, you had 2, 3, 4 DMPs, plus also Zach Reed as well. You could almost put Closey on field actually at that point. So I had my playable guys off the bench were Graham, McAuliffe, Jai Clark, and Joel Frazier. And that was, and a little bit of money in Garcia at that point, and Will Graham, I guess, to a certain extent. But like, I almost have a better cash generation in round 16 than I did in round 11, which is quite funny. So yeah, that pretty much is the video there. Logan Evans as well down here. So you can just see that there. I've got a lot more cash generation now than I did in round 16, round 11, which sort of shows, I think, that you can really, if you just go one up, one down, and you really don't cheapskate it, you really start generating cash very, very quickly. I know that a lot of people probably have these guys anyway, but yeah, I think you just generate quite a lot of cash very, very quickly, and you start to really almost maximize what you get in the end. So yeah, I'm pretty much looking at, I will probably go down the route of an upgrade to Tom Powell just to, I think a Josh Dunkley, and then, and that'll use Frazier. That'll get me, I think 190 odd in the bank or something like that. And potentially a Luke Jackson to a Jordan Dawson or something like that the next week, and then Billy Dowling up. If I can't get a Billy Dowling and someone up, then it will be just a Jackson to someone with Tholstrup, and then the week after probably a Billy Dowling up alongside a Ariel Maker or a Logan Evans, who should at that point be, given that that'll be 2 more weeks of cash generation. Will that be 3? No, I think that'll be 2 more weeks of cash generation, thinking about it. That'll be one of those two at like 360k, 370k probably. And Billy Dowling will probably be at that point, I would think 400, 430k. And looking at this, like right here, you can see he'll go up another 79k, and 79k will be 430k. And I'll have 200k in the bank. So yeah, that'll be just fine, and that'll go to a primo mid. I don't know exactly who, but maybe a Walsh again for the last sort of 4-5. Walsh again for 1-2. Walsh for maybe this North game, or potentially something else we'll see there. Treloar as well, potentially 2 weeks later. He has the Giants run, and yeah, that could be his run as well. So yeah, that's just my general thoughts about that and the video in itself. And hope we'll see back in a couple of weeks whether we'll look back in a couple of weeks and see if I actually do follow those plans and whatnot, or how much they change. But those are my general thoughts, and that would get me to a full primo side by round 18. Full primo, full no sort of iffy guys, I guess, to a certain extent, and then we can just upgrade a Jack Crisp and a Hayden Young using Lawson Humphreys and potentially I'd have probably Lawson Humphreys, Logan Evans, potentially another guy like a Maltese Wakefield as well, I think is one guy that I still have. So I have still 3 or 4 cash generators at like 300 to 400k by then to still upgrade a Jack Crisp, a Hayden Young, potentially a Nick Martin, etc. All those guys that could need upgrading by then. And yeah, so that's pretty much the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.